How is everybody doing? Welcome back to my channel. This is Caleb S. Holmberg speaking, and I have another controller to tear down and show you the inner workings of. I already did a review of this controller. This is the Hyperkin Admiral Controller for the N64 console. And it also has a Bluetooth functionality. It supposedly works with PC and mobile devices and whatnot, but I have not used it with those type of devices, so I'm not going to be talking about that today. Oops. Now, before I get started, I want to say thank you to all of my new subscribers. I just hit 20 subscribers, and very excited about that. 20 is a big number, relatively speaking. Thank you all for your support. Glad to know that somebody out there is watching my videos. Anyway, let's get right into this. This is the Hyperkin controller. We see it's got a bit of a different layout than the original N64 controller. But I already went over that in my review, so if you want to know more about what I actually think about how this controller works and how it feels, head over to that video and check it out. But to take this thing apart, you're going to start by taking out all, how many screws are there? All 7 of those screws in the back. I already did that because my screwdriver is not very convenient. Kind of gets stuck, and to put it in a nutshell, it's just not very convenient. So I already took the screws out because you guys would be bored to watch me unscrew a bunch of screws again. Anyway, take this back shell off, and that gives us access to our Z buttons. So you see there, there's these little tabs holding those in, and you can just pop those out. It feels, when I push down on this tab, you have to push down on this tab, you see, to pop that out of there. Well, it feels like it's gonna break, but I don't think it will. We'll find out. Yeah, it feels awfully okay. So it does come out, but if you see that, it looks like it was pretty got a little bit bent. So if you don't need to take those out to clean them or whatever, don't. That's really the only reason why I took them out, is to demonstrate how they actually come out. Now if I can put it back in, that's the question. There we go. Alright, so that's the back. Not really much to the back, but yeah, let's move on. Here we have our front, or the other half of the controller. This has all of the whatever your electronics and whatnot. I keep saying whatnot today. It's kind of interesting. Why do I say that? I have no idea. But anyway, before we get into how to take this apart, we should take out our L and R buttons, and those just come out like you'd expect. There's these little pin, I guess you'd say, little extrusions on those plastic pieces that fit in these little holes on the front face. Alright, now one thing that I'm going to mention right now, and that is going to be a bit prevalent throughout this this teardown, is that the rubber pads that the buttons press down on, that contact with the circuit board to register and send commands to the console. These rubber pads, some of them, especially these two, the triggers, are very well fastened to the boards. So you just want to be sort of careful as you pull them out. If you look closely, there's these little you see that? These little rubber tabs that are holding those in, and they're in there pretty tight. So just careful not to break anything there. And then these little there's these two little boards for the triggers. Sorry, I bumped the camera there. But those are held in with these white plastic tabs too, and you just pull those tabs back, and those come right out. All right. Now, before we can pull out this main board, there's a couple screws, or no, just one screw on there that we need to unscrew. So let's do that. And also, well, actually there's 4 screws, because on this board, this is the board for the, oh, my camera's out of focus. Come on, man. There you go. All right. These hold the, this board here is really only for the joystick box assembly, whatever you like to call it. So those can come out. And depending on what you're doing with your controller, if you're just cleaning it, you probably don't need to, well, no, if you're doing a deep cleaning and you want to get to all these buttons here, you are going to have to take this board out. But yeah, so this is something you will probably have to do, but I haven't foreseen all of the scenarios that might entail the disassembly of this product. So who knows? Who knows to what extent you may have to take this apart. So this just comes right out, and let's set this shell aside for a second. Hold on just a second. I dropped a screw and I don't want to lose any screws. There it is. Alright, so the board. The board has 3 little boards connected to it. These the trigger buttons on the back here. These are for the triggers for the Z and L and R triggers. Also the joystick board, and the joystick cap just kind of pops right off of there. If you've ever taken apart a GameCube controller, you'll know this is pretty much just, as far as I'm concerned, this is kind of just your average joystick assembly box type thing. You've got your potentiometers, and then in the middle there's a metal box with like these 2 little, I don't know what they're called. I'm gonna be honest. You guys are probably laughing at me because I'm so ignorant of these things, but I digress. I noticed that there are a bunch of solder points down there. It's not like the some of the GameCube controllers have screws instead of the solder points. I would rather see that, since it's a lot easier to just unscrew a screw than it is to desolder a solder point. Especially since these 4 on the outside here are not, as far as I know, don't need to conduct any electricity. I could be wrong about that. They could be like ground to ground it or whatever, but as far as I know, it's just these 6 on the side and on the top there that that send commands to the console. So those are the only ones that need to be soldered in. But I mean, if you've got your soldering equipment out, I guess you might as well. That's probably their thinking. Or else they just thought, hey, everybody else is doing it, so let's do it. But that was a rabbit trail. Anyway, we have the same deal as the triggers, trigger pads. These pads on the front are a little bit stuck sometimes. When I first took this apart, did a test run. Of course, I don't want to go into this disassembly without knowing how to disassemble the thing. But I found that these are a little bit stuck when you first take it apart, so just be mindful of that. Just be careful not to rip anything out without knowing what you're doing. It's a lesson I'm still learning, but at least I'm learning. Anyway, so that's really what you can do with the board. Yeah, if you wanted to take these little boards off, I guess it looks like you have to desolder. There's really tiny solder points there, if you can see that, if my camera would ever focus. that close. I don't know. But if you wanted to, I'm sure you could. It looks like it would be a bit tricky to get that small of a solder iron, but what do I know? I know very little about electronics, so I'm not going to go there. Anyway, so that's the board. And we have our front shell. The rubber pad for the D-pad comes right out. That one's not connected to the board at all. All the buttons, we can just do that, and then everything's pretty much disassembled and separate. So, yeah, that's about it. And the buttons go in. Each one has its own little hole with its own little notches, kind of like a foolproofing type thing that makes sure you can't put the wrong button in the wrong spot. The C buttons, I have noticed, are it's kind of nice when you're disassembling and reassembling, because it doesn't matter which one goes in which hole. They can all go in this they're interchangeable, I guess. On the original Nintendo 64 controller, the front face was kind of curved, and that meant that the C buttons were each a different height and different. The top face of them was each a different angle, so all four of them were different, which meant that each one of these holes had its own little notches in it, and you'd have to find the right one and put it in the right hole, which took a lot more time than just having four identical pieces. I like that a lot, having four identical pieces that you can just put in whatever order you want. That's just one thing I found nice, just a little thing. But that pretty much covers the disassembly, and if you want to put it back together, which you probably do. If you don't, I'm not going to judge you. You don't have to, but I would, and I would highly recommend that you do if you want to keep playing with this controller. If you're going to put it back together, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put it back together. So basically just do what you did before, but backwards. So that would mean I'm going to put the joystick back in its place first, so I don't have to worry about that. Alright, let's put the buttons back in. Just the way you found them. Yeah, so you'll notice the charging, what do you call that? My mind just went blank. But spot where you put the charging cable in there, that USB, micro USB port. That's the word I was looking for. Port. Wow, my mind is going. I can feel it. My mind is going. Anyway, so it's a little bit tricky. You have to make sure you get that in its place first before you put the board in place. So basically, the first thing you're going to look for is making sure that the USB port goes in place. But first, something I forgot: put these rubber pads back on. We don't want to forget that. If we don't do that, the buttons will just be shaking around and we won't be able to play any games. And this controller will only be useful to put on display, which is not actually useful for a video game controller, in my opinion. I mean, you could put it on display. I would not judge you, and you would be perfectly within your right to do that. That's your prerogative. But in my personal opinion, video game controllers are meant for playing video games. I mean, that's just me. That's not don't quote me on that, but that's just what I've picked up over the years. Alright, so, and you're gonna have to kind of pull those into place just to make sure these are back in so they're not flopping around or anything. I think I broke one of them, so my controller is messed up, but hopefully you don't do that to your controller. Don't be a Caleb. Anyway, so we've got all those back in place. Let's just pop this. I guess it doesn't really pop. I say pop a lot, but this more just kind of slides. It doesn't slide very nicely though. It's not a very satisfying slide. It's satisfying once you get it in place, but getting it in there, it's a little bit on the dodgy side. Anyway, let's put the joystick back into its spot, and we screw that back in. Get off of me, fly. Alright, so that's got the board back in and it's nice and tight. That's one thing I like about this. Another thing is that once you get the board back in, it's pretty much set. Like you can just, you know, turn it over and nothing falls out, which is very nice. So you don't have to worry about that. So now let's put the pads back on their boards. It's nice because they're the same part. They don't have to go to a specific one. They can go to either one. So you don't have to worry about getting the right one to the right one and the left one to the left one, if you know what I mean. So yeah, you are going to want to make sure that you put these in. You don't put these in upside down, which I don't think you can. Can you? No, you can't, because there's a little notch here that the tab, this little tab, has to come into contact with in order for this to fit. So I guess that's foolproofed. But still, you just want to make sure you get it in there the right way, or else your Z button is going to be pushing your L or R button in your other way, vice versa. So that would be a problem. We got our R. It's going to go here on the left, just like it was. Same with the L. Put that right back in. Alright, and that takes care of the back. Now all we have to do is just slap this back on here, if that will go on, of which I am doubtful. Ah, there we go. Okay, and that is that. So let's just screw these back in. Yeah, I'm not going to do all of those. I don't want to bore you guys, so... Uh-oh. I don't think I've got this completely... Ah, that's better. Alright. So that is the inside-out view of the Hyperkin Admiral Controller. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and hope you've found some sort of insight in it. Thanks again to all you who have recently subscribed to my channel. I was going to say something clever. I'm sure it'll come to me as soon as I turn off my camera. But thank you all for watching, and have a great day.